Time for another DraftScience video presentation, where I will explain, the truth in opposition to arguments made by compulsive liars. Apparently, that's what you have to do on Earth because there's so many compulsive liars. So Bruffy, the neuron killer, keeps arguing that he's somehow on the subject, and he is in some way made some sort of defense of his statements, which he hasn't done at all. So I'll just read this statement, and we'll go to the thing he says is something, and I'll show you how it's just a perfect example of the fraud, the propaganda, the false notions. So he makes these accusations that other people don't know what they're talking about, as he promotes things that are so catastrophically and obviously incorrect and just as amazingly stupid. So anyway, he says, on the rare occasion there is an element of truth in his claims, say the curved screen issue. They are not Gary's own ideas anyway. So he puts those in capital letters, even though he has no evidence at all that it wasn't my idea, that everything about the curved screen that makes it significant was a contribution I added. Okay. It's like saying Feynman doesn't deserve a Nobel Prize because two other guys thought of it too. It's just kind of bullshit. But go ahead, be a bullshitter because that's your style. Say things for which you can't demonstrate any evidence. Okay, the curved screen thing is decades old. Well, the curved screen thing doesn't mean anything if you don't take it seriously. That is, if you don't give it any meaning, it doesn't mean anything. If you just say curved screen and you don't go any further than that, then it doesn't mean anything. And I'm going to show you that that's exactly how Stephen Bro looks at the world. This is a perfect example of taking an idea, something that is significant, and not recognizing any of the significance at all. Anyway, this is decades old. Walter Frentz, whatever, even had a brilliant interactive demonstration of it 2 decades ago. So I found that demonstration, and we're going to go look at how brilliant it is. So he called it brilliant interactive demonstration. Those are the words he uses. Brilliant. Okay, so let's understand this is also in the context of a comment I haven't read yet, where I think he says, I think we've let Gary get away with making endless false statements. So let's understand, it is Stephen Bro who makes the false statements, ones he can't back up with any real evidence. He's done experiments that are absolute propaganda shit because he doesn't understand what friction is. He doesn't understand any of the elemental physics. Okay, and he admits that he can't do math, and yet he's selling Michael Van Breezen videos, which are all math. 99.9999% pure math. Okay, about the slit experiments for far too long. So yes, somehow I'm getting away with something that he's going to debunk. Well, I'm going to show you just how bad his physics is, just how bad the propaganda that he's supporting is, just how vacuous, stupid, moronic, empty, crappy, shitty, insanely bad physics it is. So here's the 20-year-old animation. Very nice. Okay, it's a simulation. 20 years old. It does this stuff. It works. It's mathematically garbage. Okay, it's titled Interference of Light at the Double Slit. There's no slits. Okay, it's the single slit, and it's not even the single slit, it's the single impediment. You can't change the slit width because the math has already decided that it's smaller than a wavelength. And as I've attempted to explain, if you make it smaller than the wavelength, then the envelope pattern is one big blob. So you've made it nothing. If I make the slits infinitely big, the other problem happens where they don't exist anymore. So there are no contributions from the outside surfaces. So I've essentially made it pure black. Okay, so you either have all white as the envelope or all black. And this is somehow an honest representation of the double slit experiment. To eviscerate it, pull out the most outstanding feature of the double slit experiment is the fact that there's two patterns. And what are they doing overtly? They're finding gimmicks, excuses to eliminate it. Eliminate the most distinctive feature and then explain it. I mean, it's so bad. Okay, so yes, this has a curved screen, and that's really great because that's the way it should be understood. But it doesn't mean anything if you don't get any of the facts right. Not a single one of the relevant facts are right, so there's no point in looking at it on a curved screen because he doesn't have any of the facts right. And he's certainly not doing the right math. So you can see so many things are so retarded, right? What's this stuff over here? What is this? What's this crap at 90 degrees? So somewhere around 30 degrees, the whole thing turns to shit. Why would that happen? So, you know, it's okay. So the truth is what the math is saying. The bars are all the same size. That's what that's what this little math he's doing here guarantees, is they're all going to be the same size. Okay, and he's recognizing whether they're the same size on a curved surface. But what does his simulation produce? Look at the size difference. Little tiny, bigger, bigger, bigger. He's forcing them to get bigger when the curved screen fixes that problem. The curved screen is what makes them all the same size. That's what fixes the optical illusion that they're getting bigger and bigger as they go further out. So it's so ironic that he has the curved screen and the thing that it fixes, he didn't fix. I mean, one of the obvious things it fixes, he didn't fix. And clearly the pattern, if you're drawing your two path length differences from at 90 degrees, right, the two lines, so at 90 degrees, you're basically just drawing, say if a slit was here, a surface was here, and a surface was here. You're just drawing your lines right on top of each other, right? And you're guaranteed to have something here. Not this weird little, this huge blob. You wouldn't have anything huge. So he's not even using the whole 180 degrees, which is, again, how is this accurate? So this is brilliant. It is brilliant to give people this misimpression. That's brilliant. The math is wrong, even if you do the math, right? I mean, let's say when you make this 500, let's just make it 500 nanometers, and then you'll have a nice even number. Okay, so 500 into 5,000. That's what you have as the spacing. He has 19 technically, with lines. He doesn't have lines going at 90 degrees, so it's really 21, I suppose. And the 21st ones, the first one and the 21st ones, the ones at the two ends at the 90 degrees, are again gigantic without any explanation. And let's take it a little further. Let's just move it 10. Now you can see how the end ones are getting smaller, right? See how the 90 degree ones disappeared. So somehow he knows that the pattern is consistent, but clearly he has the double-sized nodes at the 90 degree points when they're not there. That's not where the big nodes end up. So you can see technically he has gigantic nodes at the 90 degrees. You don't have gigantic nodes there. That doesn't happen. The two don't overlap, right next to each other, and you fill in the blank with extra light. That's not going to happen there. So it's completely backwards. Okay, it's not proportional. Look how tiny the little dots are in the middle and how big they're getting on the outside. The very thing the curved screen fixes is not demonstrated in his animation. I mean, how did he miss that part? Oh, it's because he's not doing the right math. That's one reason. And it's not the double slit, because he's basically said the slit is infinitesimally small, that is smaller than a wavelength. That means you can't have two path length difference. You can't go to some point where you would have constructive interference because there is no point, theoretically. Or you just make the slits disappear. You just make the outside surfaces disappear. So all you have is the single impediment. That's what this is, and they're calling it the double slit. And he calls this a brilliant demonstration of the double slit experiment. when it's a brilliant evasion, it's a brilliant obfuscation, it's a brilliant piece of shitty propaganda for a wave theory that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It doesn't get right answers. It's not the correct theory. It's not good physics. It's not good science. It's absolute crap, and this lying sack of shit won't admit, oh, that's not brilliant. I shouldn't be promoting that because it's got all kinds of wrong math. It's got wrong geometry. It gives you wrong answers. It completely misrepresents the truth. Yes, it's irrationally wrong. Okay, it's irrational that the little blobs are different sizes. It's irrational that they get bigger at the 90 degrees. I mean, it's completely irrational to call it the double slit when they took away two of the surfaces. Two of the surfaces have been essentially taken out of the experiment. How could it possibly be the double slit when you took two of the surfaces away? All right. So the correct way to understand, okay, is it's so simple. In hindsight, it's so frickin' simple. So if you use his single slit animation and just ignore the fact that he has twice as many nodes in the picture. So the truth is these aren't the right number of bars. He has twice as many in here. You won't get this number if you use these numbers in real life. And let's understand, this animation has no real life images to compare the animation to. There's no proof or evidence that this is predicting actual patterns at all. And again, he calls that brilliant. To completely provide zero evidence that this is correct. Yeah, that's brilliant. So just understand. So what's happening is the two interior slits, if you allow them to be in the experiment, right, they produce the top image. Okay, so the top image would be if you use the dimensions of the interior slit, and it's going to create an envelope pattern because it's a small distance. Okay, so, and then you're going to take the two outside surfaces and you're going to say, what would the math create for the two outside surfaces? And then it'll have more bars. Now, obviously, they're going to be evenly spaced, not unevenly spaced, and they start at the 90 degrees, not at the center. So you have to understand when... See, Stephen Bro is such a liar. He won't admit simple things. Like, mistakes people make. Now, Professor Lewin has made some mistakes. And he said, in a video, well, quite obviously, the center has to be a central maxima and on because the two lines are the same length. But he's doing the same thing Feynman did. Okay, he's not recognizing that there's two kinds of these patterns, right? So if any point sources will create two patterns. One of them is lines going in, okay, and one of them will be created by lines going out. Okay, so you're creating a bunch of, let's say you had just an aperture, you can understand you're creating Newton's rings going out, and you're also creating a Newton's rings going in. Okay, and so the one going in, right, the whole experiment is 1 millimeter. So you have to, this isn't that complicated. You really should be able to follow along here. And these people, these liars like Piro and Bro, all of these liars, Farley, they won't admit any of these errors that are being made by the physics they're defending. And this is a critical error. So they say something like, well, look, the center, it's two equal lines. But it's two equal lines inside of a millimeter. That pattern doesn't get enlarged with distance. Only things going out can get enlarged by distance. So if you understand it, I can make this a huge amount of distance and I won't make this bigger. This is still 1 millimeter. Obviously my fringes are going to be centimeters in size. Big. Okay, the fringes are going to be big. Okay, how can I put a 3 centimeter fringe inside of 1 millimeter? The fringe has to be 3 centimeters. How could it be 3 centimeters here? It can't be. So obviously this node would be 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter. Okay, inside of 1 millimeter. It's not a real node. The real node started here. And this will tell you, these will all be the same size, and what you have as a remainder will be here. So that's why you end up with a bigger maxima, is there's a distance between where the nodes start. And sometimes you can fill that in with superfluous light, and then it'll look like it's much bigger. And then sometimes those two nodes will overlap. You know, so this node will overlap with this node, and so it'll just be a little bigger than a 1. But those are your choices. You can be anywhere in that range. So that's the, you know, that's the real explanation. Will they provide any evidence that what I just pointed out isn't completely correct? That the two path lengths that go in, so you can understand that this is the key factor, right? All the other lines, you're talking about comparing two lines that are going in the same direction. These are going in the same direction. These are going in the same direction. And you can understand this is just one focus in space. If I move the target here, you could see, oh, there's a focus right here. But most of the light's doing this, and this, and this. And this light's doing this, and this, and this. It's going way past the focus. And that means that the two lines are going in the same direction. And this is only a one aberrant case where the lines go opposite each other. So you can understand that's an aberrant case. And then that whole node has to fit into less than 1 millimeter. How can it fit into less than 1 millimeter? It's a gigantic node. It has to fit right in that line. And obviously can't fit in there. Oh, man. This is such bad science they're defending. So bad. Alright, so you can understand that this shows you all you need to know right here. You know, you have two sources. You have the four sources explains it all. So the two shortest distances are creating the envelope pattern. The two furthest distances are creating the little bars. And all you have to do to understand the experiment, all you have to do to see it, to visualize exactly what's happening, is to just superimpose them on each other. So just take what the two inside, okay, the impediment is telling you this is the smallest distance, because I'm going to make the slits bigger than the impediment. Doesn't really matter. I can make them half the size and I've still got the same size. So anyway, and I'm going to just take the pattern for that. Okay, now it's going to have a bigger central maxima. Okay, and then it's going to have these things on the side. And I'm doing it on a flat screen just for convenience. Alright, and then you take these two. So that's this dimension. This is the pattern this dimension creates. Then I just add this one. Alright, and the pattern this one creates is obviously going to be, this is a much larger distance, many more wavelengths fit in here. I'm going to get much smaller little bars. And all you're really doing is saying, now I took these two patterns, now the little bars are still here and here. Alright, but when I combine the two, what the rules basically say is both things have to be on. And in places where both aren't on, I erase this one, and I erase this, because it's not both. So you need a contribution from all four sources. All four sources have to hit the spot and be in phase for there to be a bit of light. So this pattern by itself isn't bright enough. This pattern by itself isn't bright enough, but when you combine the two, then you get the pattern. And it's that simple. Now they won't give you a nice, reasonable explanation for how this isn't correct. They'll just say it's incorrect, but they won't show you it incorrect. Alright, so this just illustrates it. Interior slits creating the smallest distance between two slits, creating the envelope. The largest distance between two surfaces, not slits, surfaces, creates the small pattern. Where the two of them overlap, you have a light where one of them's off and there's no light. So in the places where it's dark here, all of those stay dark. Where it's dark here, all of that stays dark. That's the rule. So it's only where they overlap you get light. Alright, so is there anything else I have to say about that? So, and just understand, the nodes are the wrong size, and he has them starting in the center, because he's doing, look, two equal lines. but they're inside a millimeter. The pattern starts at 90 degrees. 90 degrees is where you're guaranteed, okay, to be getting the right answer, because see this, you're just making two lines. You're saying, okay, what's the path length difference between when the double slit, it's 4 path lengths, but we're just going to do these two. We're not going to do this. And all you're doing is saying, there's this line, and then there's this line. And these notches are the wavelength. Okay, so you understand exactly how many lines of difference you have between the two. Okay, and so you just put those notches right here on this string, and that'll tell you, well, you put them on this end. And as you move it on the arc, the notches will just tell you exactly where the center of the brights are on those notches. And the truth is that if it's an on here, okay, that is, you have a whole number. It's exactly like this. It's 500. If I put 500 nanometers into a distance of 5,000, and I'm going to get exactly 10 nodes. Okay, then you know that there would be a center of a bright would be at 90 degrees. And so then you know this, the dark comes, and then there's the center of a bright here, and then there'll be the center of a bright here, and they're going to be equal distant. And so then you're going to end up with only a, it's not going to be in the center. The center is going to be an off, not an on. It's going to be, if you start with a bright, you will end with an off, and vice versa. Alright, so that's enough of using this, I believe. Is there anything else I have to add? So the animation has you can't adjust for the slits at all. The slits have essentially, they're not in the experiment essentially. He's picked one number for the slit. It's under 500 nanometers, so it's under a wavelength of width, and therefore there is no second contribution. So he's just turned the double slit into the single slit, or the single impediment more exactly. And the math is wrong, okay? You have to do, it's just ironic that he doesn't have, you have to put pi in here somewhere. Obviously you would know this math couldn't possibly be doing it on this curved surface, because to be able to do it on a curved surface you'd have to have pi in here somewhere, right? You have to have the idea that you're on a curved surface in here somewhere, and it's not in here anywhere. But anyway, I don't know if you have to. I guess if you have sine theta and the length, so he's using the length distance and taking it seriously. So, okay, so yeah, so you don't have to have pi, but you have to have pi. Pi makes it easy because pi will tell you exactly what the circumference of this arc is, and therefore you'll draw the things the right size, because you'll know the curved surface deals with length a little different. So, I mean, I'm just saying he obviously did it wrong, because he ended up with this idiotic idea that the nodes are different sizes, and they're not different sizes. They're all the same size. The one being created over there is the same size as the one created over there, as the one created over there. They're all the same. Alright, that's probably enough. So let's just understand. The curved surface to me, when I said, okay, well, yeah, it's on a curved surface and there's a straight line radius. That said to me, what I did with that information was I realized that when I'm saying path length difference, if I go at the 90-degree path length difference, the two lines are right on top of each other. And it makes it just so obvious that the path length difference is the width of the slit. That ends up being, this distance ends up being exactly the distance of the slit. And so it's telling me exactly how many notches I have to use going across the 180 degrees. That's all there are. That just divide the wavelength into the distance between the surfaces, and it'll tell you exactly how many nodes there are. And then you just sit there and say, well, if I'm putting them on a curved surface, I'll just multiply the radius times pi, and that'll tell me how long the curved surface is, and then I'll just divide my node width number into that, and I'm done. I'll tell you where all the brights are and where all the offs are, and no waves involved, because the waves will be in ludicrous positions. So let's understand, if you want to do the math right, If you want to get right answers, if you want to be true to the experiment, if you want to be honest, if you want to be an honest person, right? That's what this is about. I mean, Stephen Brozo is a lying criminal. He's a propagandist, lying asshole, sitting there saying, I'm misinforming people. He is. This is a misinformation. This isn't the truth. There's no truth value here at all. What part of this lousy, rotten piece of crap animation that completely gives you wrong answers, what part of it has truth value beyond the curved screen? Every other element is a lie, is wrong, is inaccurate. Okay, so what was I going to illustrate? Crap. Yeah, there's some reason I'm here. So the important feature, so anyway, so to me, the important feature again is this line. So the thing that's telling you this distance, you know, this is the wavelength difference. You can put it right on these lines and then just move your lines, and the notches will just go from one string right onto the other side, and it'll just tell you the answer, and it'll explain why the nodes are here, and they're not here. That's not the center. The center is not an on. Oh yeah, what I wanted to illustrate is, okay, so if you want to be honest in describing the double slit, you don't do the Young drawing, right? The Young drawing is a lie. Okay, this drawing of two waves is a lie. It doesn't work. This won't give you the right answer. Now, will Stephen Brozo admit that simple truth, that this is a lie? This distance, okay, will not represent this distance and this distance. It won't get you the right answer. It won't give you the right answer. It can't create the double slit pattern because there's not enough information in two waves. Two waves won't create the pattern. And what you have to have is four waves if you're going to keep a wave theory. And the four waves have to be centered right here on the surface. That's where the wave center has to be, right on the surface. Okay, so why would waves be created in those ludicrous positions? That's not going to happen. That's not they don't have any silly wave theory that's going to make that sensible. So it's obviously not wave. It's not a wave behavior. It's obvious that the photons are being broken at these surfaces and going through. Oh. And then you're just reconstructing. You have a 50-50 chance, okay, of reconstruction in phase and out of phase. That's simple. You take 100% of the photons and you'll get 50% of them back here. And that's the truth. And that has there's every indication that actually happens, that you lose some of the light's visibility, that the slit is screwing it up. See, if I could I want to bring up microwaves here eventually in the radar experiment, but so microwaves are kind of interesting, right? Because microwave ovens have these little holes in the window, right? These little holes. And what that's telling you is that if you could make these little holes, you know, very small, like if you could make them 100 nanometers, and then you shined light through it, that it would probably do the same thing to visible light. You know, it would wipe it out because the polarization can't fit through the holes. So none of the whole photons get through the little holes. And because they're round holes, you can understand that they're scattering the light. See, a rectangle scatters the light this way and this way. You know what I mean? It scatters it around. Goes around the corner and comes this way. A round surface scatters it up. Scatters it in all kinds of directions, right? So you're scattering it not only, you know, you're not shooting it like this. You're shooting it this way and that way and that way. So it's going all kinds of ways, which means you have a much harder time putting the photons back together. Where if they're both shooting from, you know, in the same plane, then you have some chance of putting your photon back together. You know, from a piece from here and a piece from here. But a piece from here and a piece from here, if one of them's going up and one of them's going down, plus they're going sideways, well then it's a lot harder to put one together. So that's why there's round holes in the door. not square holes. And certainly not rectangular holes, because rectangular holes would mean that half the radiation could get through and get to you. You know. So the whole idea of the holes is really to break the microwaves into the little pieces and break them in such a way as that you don't have much likelihood of recombining them in phase. Okay. Yeah. All right, so maybe we'll take a pause here, and then I was going to say maybe we'll read the new comment that I haven't seen yet. I really do just want to go through an ordered. I want to make a video. I'll make another photon video. Just go through these ordered things, like which is the most important fact that's being completely ignored by conventional physics. So here they're completely ignoring the significance of the double slit pattern by eviscerating, just annihilating the two pattern phenomenon, destroying the envelope by making either the slits, the width of the slits infinite, or the width of the slits infinitesimal. And so they're forcing the two extremes that essentially just destroy the existence of the exterior slits, surfaces, sorry. And then still calling it the double slit pattern when they've essentially destroyed anything that could be called the double part. They've destroyed the double part. All right. Yeah, wait, I have a list on my, whatever. Okay. So yes, we'll go maybe to the new comment and read that, where he's claiming he's going to do something. What he should do is explain why he called this a brilliant demonstration of the double slit experiment. Why, Stephen, did you call this brilliant? Did you test it? Did you even look at it? Did you analyze it at all? Or did you just trust it? And so you just keep arguing from your silly trust. He has a W-efferent name. People who just put W are really important, and they always have right answers. I mean, why did you think this was a brilliant demonstration of the double slit experiment when it quite obviously doesn't have the double slit pattern in it? I mean, Stephen's done it. He knows the double slit pattern. He knows what it looks like. It's not here. Why is he saying this is a great piece of science when it doesn't even have the pattern in it? It's not even visible as the double slit pattern. Why are you saying it's brilliant? To deceive. This isn't a deception. This isn't so inaccurate it has to be called a lie. It's not inaccurate enough to be called a lie. Oh, you're such a pathetic shithead. So anyway, I'll be back. Alright, should be back. Better test and see. Yeah, appears like it's adding more time. Alright, so let's just read. It's only a paragraph. Wow, amazing. Anyway, I think we've let Gary get away with making endless false statements about the slit experiments for far too long. Again, my video has been up on photons for 7-8 months. 15-minute video. I'm offering real money for somebody to actually play the video and point out where there's something in the video that would be called pseudoscience or crap or illogical or irrational or a lie proven to not be true, something like that. And he can't do that, and he won't do that because he can't do it. He won't do it because he can't do it. So he has to do something else to pretend he's addressed the argument. And what the something else will be is he'll say, I pushed some old lady into the street and stole her shoes. He'll make up some fake story about something completely unrelated. And then say, there, I proved your double slit argument incorrect. Because he's an idiot. He is factually, I mean, he's very proud of it. I mean, he's an actual retard. Okay, he has a certificate of retardation. Alright, and now we have to physically show him. So he won't physically show anything. And others who believe every word he says. So again, no one's believing every word I say. So again, that's just more fake stuff, right? There's absolutely no evidence that anyone ever has believed every single thing I say until I demonstrate to be true. So some things they say, hey, yeah, that's a good argument, Gary, but yeah, you really haven't proven that either. It certainly sounds more reasonable than their wooey space, but yeah, you didn't prove it yet. Okay, that he is simply guessing. Yes, and Richard Feynman will tell you that's exactly what science is. You guess, and then you test the guess. Yeah. I mean, I just said it better than Feynman. But that's exactly what Feynman has said. So again, he's just such an asshole. I mean, he says this stuff, and then he won't say, oh, well, Feynman was such an asshole for saying that, because that's not good science guessing. Of course, that's exactly the process. The process is exactly saying, what does it add up to? Well, let's try this, and let's try that. Does this work? Does that work? Does that explain it? And then you find out by testing that it does or it doesn't. I mean, there was just this whole controversy, right? You saw it with the Veritasium video, and the car that goes faster than the wind pushing it, blah, 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 blah. And lots of people have to just guess at what the phenomenon is. And then you test the guess. All right, and guessing very badly. So he keeps saying that, but he won't show that. So that's what's missing. We don't have any evidence that I've badly guessed at what gravity is, or I've badly guessed at what a photon is, or that I've badly guessed that kinetic energy is a figment of your silly imagination and has absolutely no scientific credibility. Okay, why don't you show me the great evidence you have? Oh, that's right, you don't have any great evidence, because you never put a generator on the 10-ton train or the 60-mile-an-hour car. You've never shown me how the 60 miles an hour car actually takes more energy to slow it down. 4 times more energy than the 30-mile-an-hour car. You won't show me that it takes more energy, because it doesn't. It takes twice as much. Instead of actually doing any math. So again, he's talking about math that he doesn't do any math at all. Okay, and he admits he doesn't do any math at all, and he hates math, and he can't do math, and yet he's citing the math. Why would this moron do that? He knows he can't see something as being the truth. If somebody gives it to him in just mathematical terms, he won't be able to see the truth of it. And yet he's selling it that way. He doesn't know any math, and yet he's saying you have to do the math. Isn't that just so fucking ironic? And I just showed the thing he's promoting is doing irrational math. Math that can't possibly be related to the double slit experiment. Can't possibly show you the double slit image, can't create it, won't create it. It has nothing to do with the double slit, essentially, because he's basically doing the math for the single impediment. So you don't even understand what math is. It's supposed to be connected to the object you're describing. You're supposed to be, how are you describing the double slit? By taking the slits out of the double slit. Oh, I don't think you are then, you idiot. And he is an idiot. That's the problem here. He's an idiot. Okay. Any math, he just declares it so. So, just another lie. I pointed out that Newton's math was actually what's being distorted here, right? And Newton didn't say F equals ma. Newton said, okay, the force equals the change in your momentum divided by any time unit you wish to use. That's what Newton said. So he basically said the force equals the change in your momentum. That's what the force does. An amount of momentum is going to change your momentum. So the force is clearly momentum, instead of actually measuring anything. So more horse shit about how I'm obligated to go measure something. So I just showed you an animation where nothing was measured, nothing's compared to a real result, nothing's actual at all. It's just complete figmatic crap. Okay, a complete disconnected simulation of absolute crap. There's no reality there. It's a dragon. There's no real animal. And he promoted that as brilliant physics. So no proof, no rational math, no real measuring, no real comparison to real images, nothing. And he called it brilliant. All right. He just declares it so. I think that animation just declares it so. That simulator. That simulator is just declaring it so. Do you think it's getting right answers, Stephen? Do you think the image on your simulator, do you really think this image is reality? That it's completely consistent with the actual results you will get, that you'll produce? Do you really think so, Stephen, that in reality these giant nodes are created at 90 degrees? God, you're such a liar. Do you really think this is what happens at 90 degrees? You know, at whatever, 70 degrees. That all of a sudden the node is 5 times larger. You think that really happens, Steve? Oh, you're such a liar. I mean, to sit there and do this in the face of the horrible physics you're defending. I mean, it's absolutely horrible science. Clay experiments. You know, to prove, you know, what energy is. I mean, so bad. And that's all they have. Just understand, that's all they had as evidence because they had to fake the evidence. So they had to use a medium that was completely fudgeable. They had to use a ruler that you just put it in the freezer and it changes size. And you use the frozen ruler to do your measurements. So again, what good are measurements if they're going to be done by people who don't give a fuck about being honest to the truth? They have an agenda. And you won't admit this. You're defending that horrible physics. Oh, you're such a despicable person. And we explain he is wrong. You don't explain anything. You haven't made any where's the explanation so I can put it in bold type? Where you have explained anything ever. Okay, he resorts to the same old liars and trolls accusations. The accusations that are proven. I mean, what the fuck are you? You called something that's a piece of shit just now brilliant. I mean, what? Who but a liar? Like, again, I'm supposed to believe you don't know what the double slit pattern looks like? That you think that simulator looks anything like the double slit pattern, what it creates? What, you were too stupid? What's your excuse going to be? You were drunk that day? Granted, he still does that with rock solid proof in front of him. So again, there's no rock solid anything here in terms of any proof he has provided. There's zero evidence that 10-ton trains going 5 miles an hour have 1/2 the energy of 5-ton trains going 10 miles an hour. No proof at all. Nothing solid, nothing real. Okay, but he looks even sillier saying something is 3 times wider when there is a rule behind it showing it to be 2x. I said it could be anywhere between those numbers, so that's what I said, asshole. So depending on what circumstance, it'll be anywhere between bigger than a 1. Okay, it's always going to be bigger than 1 node, and it'll be something under 3. Those are the possibilities I suggested. So he thinks that was sillier. He thinks that's silly. It's so far off. Like, let's say even if I was off by 1, you know, and I said it's under 3x, and it's really under 2x. Like, none of them are ever more than 2. See, they can be, I think they can be a little bit over 2. But let's just say I was wrong on that. I'm clearly not being silly. I'm clearly not that far off. And so, but he'll say it's okay. I mean, you know, Eddington only has 10% of the photographic quality he's looking for. That's okay. 10% is huge. You know, this is just so stupid. All right, anyway, we need to go through the list of some of... Yes, go through the list, please, and show me your evidence. I keep pleading with you. Please show me one piece of fucking evidence that you have that has any integrity at all. And I'll put it in bold type on my, you know, on my channel. I'll glorify it. I will put gold leaf all around your brilliant argument. Show me one fucking piece of evidence that you've provided, okay, to challenge anything in those 3 videos, and I'll take it off the video. So disprove something. Show me a piece of evidence of how I'm wrong. But you haven't done that, you fucking piece of trolly shit. You just lie that we created all kinds of evidence. You haven't made any. None. There's no good science. You just say so. That's it. You say so. I'm the one who's pointed out to you how your evidence sucks. That your experiments they have huge logical flaws in them. Until you clean that up, okay, and do the experiment in some sort of sensible way. I mean, he can't even do simple, sensible things. Like, he's going to do a spring experiment. He doesn't show you how much he's compressing the spring. He doesn't show you the K, you know, the spring constant of the spring. He doesn't show you how stiff the spring is. Nothing. And then he tells you, look, the spring failed to do what it's supposed to do. I don't know, did it? Or did you fail to understand you have to understand the science of the springs? The springs can't do what they have limits. And you have to do your experiment within the spring's limits. It's like you have to know how much weight something can take, you know, to carry it. You know, everything has rules. Forklifts, you can only lift so much weight with your forklift. There's rules. And you don't want to follow the rules. Okay. Let's see. We need to go through the list. So the list is right in the videos. This is so ironic, right? Even this video, there's a list of arguments in this video. They're there all the time. That's what all my videos are, is a list of arguments, and I'm pleading with you to make a rational counter argument. And your counter arguments are, what? What's your counter argument? I mistreated a goldfish somewhere? I mean, it won't be on the subject. We need to go through the list of his errors and physically show. So you're not going to do the physical show of gravity. So a lot of this is theoretical physics, and all you're really doing saying is, here's a logical argument, but you're not going to be able to show a physical argument. Okay, but clearly in kinetic energy, you could just show us your proof. Show me proof that it takes 4 times as much gasoline to go 60 miles an hour than it does to go 30. Show me it taking 4 times as much gas. All right, show where he is mistaken. Yeah, so again, he won't show it. I think it can be done civilly. And you're the worst demonstrator of that. You haven't made one fucking video in over 4 years that could be called a civil video. Every single video you make is some agenda where you add to the video endless lying crap about my life and my character. I don't even do that in this video. I just point out you're a liar, and I show the lie. Okay, he called it brilliant, a brilliant animation, and the animation couldn't be further on the other side, right? It's completely opposite of brilliant. It's a complete distortion, perversion, misrepresentation of the physical reality. It gets completely wrong answers. All right, but I don't think he will ever accept any evidence. So again, it's, he keeps saying there's some sort of evidence, and the evidence is in he's got so much sticky gummy bear juice on the experiment. He's messed it up so badly, and then he says, "Why don't you believe me?" Well, I don't believe you because it's the experiment's a pile of shit. You didn't diagram it properly. You didn't do it thinking, well, am I doing this in a clinical way? You did the experiment with the purpose of proving something. You didn't do it with the purpose of finding the truth. You wanted to defend your truth aggressively, which is quite ironic for someone who never shuts up about the lack of it from mainstream science. Well, I'm just saying mainstream science has trillions of dollars, millions of scientists, laboratories all over the world, has tons of air tracks, has tons of experimental equipment, and doesn't prove anything. They can't drop a stick of motherfucking butter onto a scale and tell me how much it weighs when it falls 1 meter. For fuck's sake, nobody should point out how that's pretty fucking lame. That, in all of this time, they haven't even bothered to see how much a joule weighs. That's incredible. Okay, if I went to the aliens and told them that story, they'd be laughing their asses off. They'd be like, oh man, your science is so fake. God, You want to shoot all your scientists, but they clearly don't know what science is. Science is to go find the answers. It isn't to make the answers. It's not. They're not supposed to be selling a story and trying to glue horns on goats. And that's all this is. You people keep trying to force the evidence. Force it to fit. Force it to fit. Force it to fit. And it doesn't fucking fit. Forces don't interact with forces. Gravity doesn't bend light. That's why your evidence sucks, is because you can't find any. And so you have to force the truth to be the truth. Well, let's shoot light through a bunch of particles right next to the sun, and then we'll say gravity did it. Even though we know particles of dust did it. Oh, you people are just so bad. You're so evil. Okay. I will make a start shortly. Oh, what a lie. Okay. He's had months and months to deal with my arguments, and he hasn't come near one of them yet. And all he can do is say something stupid like, some other guy thought of it first. So he thinks I'm wrong, and yet he's pointing out how some other guy was wrong first. Amazingly stupid. I will begin shortly. I will begin. Whatever that means. I don't know. That's so laughable. Begin with your own suggestion. So go to your own animation and show us how it's brilliant. So go ahead. Show us how this piece of crap, okay, is a brilliant demonstration of the double slit experiment. You know, this image here and this image here are brilliant representations of what the double slit produces. Brilliant. Brilliantly accurate. Brilliantly real. Go ahead. Start there. Okay, start with your own brilliant evidence. The proof you've done. You debunked me with this crap. You implied in your comment that, oh, this has all been solved by this brilliant scientist with this brilliant animation. Obviously not solved. Obviously not brilliant. A perfect example of exactly what I'm arguing against. This is the pseudoscience. The conventional physics people will say this is okay. They'll say Dr. Quantum is acceptable, even though it's insanely inaccurate. Okay? They find it acceptable. They don't go on TV saying that thing should be eradicated. It's not science. Sell that shit as religion. Do not put the word quantum on it. Don't put science on it. Don't create an animated scientist saying this shit. They have no right to do that. Does physics fight it? No. They support this misinformation. And you support them. And that makes you such a silly, stupid, useless sack of shit. Ugh. God. I hate this planet. Man, just hate it. Ugh. You know, so Piero, what a you're all so fucking dishonest to keep supporting this crap. This he keeps doing it too. I mean, I've been calling him on this misinformation thing, and he just keeps doing it. He keeps defending horrible physics. He sat there and said, "Oh, you're attacking Miss Chardonnay. Oh, you're a womanizing horrible man." You know, not to appreciate what a brilliant scientist she was. She was a propagandist with an agenda. And her science was crap. She made no contribution. Understand, she did no science. She took other people's, directly stole other people's crap, okay, and used it for her purposes. Period. No, let's not say she didn't do some of the experiments, but obviously they were experiments that were clearly riggable. They're all riggable experiments. I'll just put some more thickener in the clay. Yeah, I'll just change this circumstance, add a little water to the sand. And now the results come out exactly the way I want them to. It's really bad science. Alright, that's enough. Get the hell out of here. Alright, so... fuck. I mean, these people are just so dishonest. Just fess up. your scientists should be doing a better job. Just say it. Feynman did a lousy job of describing the double slit experiment. It's just lousy. Okay, Lewin shouldn't be fooled by, well, obviously the center has a maxima because the two lines are the same length. When obviously those two lines are inside of 1 millimeter. Yeah, obviously. So how are you going to put the big giant node inside of 1 millimeter? Oh yeah, you can't do that. And as soon as you get real, that is, you go with this perfect line, and as soon as you start bending this way, whoops, all of a sudden what was an on is now an off. As soon as you go 0.2 millimeters, let's just say you're here at in the center on 1 millimeter, and you just move it 1 millimeter, well, now your lines are both going the same direction, and guess what? It's not an on anymore. There's not a wavelength of difference anymore in the path length. It's not an on. It's not constructive. So it was constructive inside the millimeter, but it's not constructive right outside that 1 millimeter. All of a sudden, it's not constructive interference anymore. It's destructive. I mean, he's a scientist. He should have figured that out. But he didn't. And you won't acknowledge simple things like that. You won't acknowledge that, yeah, it's really stupid for him to say there's two voltages in one location in any system. That any one location in space can have two voltages on it. That's really just kind of silly to say. You won't admit it. I mean, it's pathetic. All right. So, if I can get the hell out of here. Hit this here button. Alright, so this has been a DraftScience video presentation. I shall endeavor to persevere, but that's all I'm doing. I'm just banging the rocks and putting in my time here on, you know, this shitty prison planet.